This is Math 6100, 23rd trimestral. And our lessons for today is all about the limits of B functions. The limit of B function. So, last week we have discussed about tangent lines, velocities, and growth. And also, last week po, we also discussed about the limit and continuity. So, parang series po siya. It's only a continuous lessons po ito, no? So, we're going to discuss today about limits po ulit. Sabi dito, the idea and informally. So, calculus has been called the study of continuous chains. And the limit is the basic concept which allows us to describe and analyze such chains. An understanding of limit is necessary to understand derivatives, integrals, and other fundamental topics of calculus. Okay? So the limit of the function describes the behavior of the function when the variable is near, but does not equal a specified number in our figure 1. If the values of the function of x get closer and closer, as close as we want to one number L, as we take values of x very close to but not equal to a number C. Okay? So if we're going to look on our figure 1, okay? So meron kayong x and y axis po ulit. Okay? If you remember our figure last meeting regarding your tangent lines, so meron tayong functions po doon, no? Ang kulay po niya is kulay red po yung curve po niya. Then meron tayong kulay black, that is our second line. And then we have our kulay blue, that is our tangent line. So ganun din po yung gagawin po natin ngayon dito. So nung una, dun sa tangent line po natin, how we're going to locate that one, so dapat we have to get a number which is from the left or to the right, which is closer and closer to our reference point. So ganun din po yung gagawin po natin ngayon. So dito, yung kulay red po dito, that is your y is equal to the function of x. So paano po siya kukunin? Tulad ng ginawa natin sa tangent line, pag meron kayong constant dito, which is the value of your x, project it upward and then to the left, by this time you have your d limit. Okay? That is your y. The value of your y can be determined by that of your function of x. Okay? So sabi dito, say that the limit of the function of x as x approaches to c is L. And we write limit the function of x as x approaches the constant is equal to L. The symbol, yung arrow to the right, means approaches or gets very close to, but not equal. Approaches siya, no? So, ganun din po yung ginawa natin noon sa tangent line. Hindi siya po eksakto doon sa point of reference po natin. Okay? So, FC is a single number that describes the behavior value of f at the point x is equal to constant. The limit of function of x as x approaches the constant is a single number that describes the behavior of f near but not at the point x is equal to constant. If we have a graph of the function near x is equal to c, then it's usually easy to determine the limit the function of x as x approaches to constant. Okay? You have your example 1. Use the graph of y is equal to the function x in figure 2 to determine the following limits. So the limit the function of x as x approaches to 1, letter B, the limit the function of x as x approaches to 2, letter C, the limit the function of x as x approaches to 3, letter D, the limit of the function of x as x approaches to 4. So by this time, we are going to use the graph method. So our point of reference po dito ngayon to determine its limit to our function is our figure 2. Okay? So we have our solution. The limit of the function of x as x approaches to 1 is equal to 2. When x is very close to 1, the value of the function of x are very close to y is equal to 2. In this example, it happens that the function of 1 is equal to 2, but that is irrelevant for the limit. The only thing that matters is what happened for x close to 1, but x not equal to 1. Dahil dito, gagamitin natin yung approaches and very close to, not equal. Sabi dito, but not equal to 1. Okay? So the answer is the limit of the function of x as x approaches to 1, our answer is 2. So using the graph method, paano siya nakuha? Using your x and y axis, ito yung x natin, the value of x is equal to 1, project it upward, and then project it to the left, the answer is 2. Ito po yung limit po natin. Okay? So next, number 2, the limit of the function of x as x approaches to 2, f, which is 2, is undefined, but we only care about the behavior of the function of x for x close to 2 and not equal to 2. When x is close to 2, the values of the function of x are close to 3. If we restrict x close enough to 2, the values of y will be close as to 3 as we want. So therefore, the limit of the function of x as x approaches to 2 is equal to 3. Okay? So pag titingnan po natin yung figure po natin, if our x is equal to 2, okay, project it upward and then to the left, your y or your limit is equal to 3. Next, when x is close to 3 or x approaches the value 3, the value of the function of x are close to 1 or approaches the value 1. So the limit of the function of x as x approaches to 3 is equal to 1. For this limit, it is completely irrelevant the function of 3 is equal to 2. We only care about what happens to the function of x for x close to and not equal to 3. So ito yung letter C po natin. The limit of the function of x as x approaches to 3, ito na siya. Okay? So project it upward and then project it to the left, the answer is 1. Hindi po natin kukunin ito dahil walang given na function o yung curve, no? So ang i-concentrate lang po natin yung kulay blue na functions po natin. So if x is equal to 3, approaches to 3, your limit is approaches to 1. Okay? Next, for the last one. This one is harder and we need to be careful. When x is close to 4 and slightly less than 4, x is just to the left of 4 on the x-axis. The values of the function of x are close to 2. But if x is close to 4 and slightly larger than 4, then the values of the function of x are close to 3. Okay? If we only know that x is very close to 4, then we cannot say whether y is equal to function of x will be close to 2 or close to 3. It depends on whether x is on the right or on the left side of 4. In this situation, the function of x values are not close to a single number, so we say that the limit of the function of x as x approaches to 4 does not exist. Okay? It is irrelevant that function of 4 is equal to 1. The limit as x approaches to 4 would still be undefined if the function of 4 was 3 or 2 or anything else. So ito na po yung sagot po natin. The limit, the function of x as x approaches to 4, nandito yung 4 natin. So pag titingnan po natin dito, ang sagot po natin is irrelevant and at the same time is undefined. Bakit po, no? If we're going to look on our figure, meron tayong dalawang function. Ito yung una. This is our first reference na function. Pero dito may panibagong function uli. So we cannot locate exactly what is the limit of our function which as x approaches to 4. So pag mayroong dalawa kang function, ang tawag doon does not exist po yung limit po natin. Okay? Dahil hindi po natin alam kung sino yung pipiliin po natin. Either this one functions or this is another function. So the safest answer is does not exist. Okay? Next, example number 2. So determine the value of the limit to x squared minus x minus 1 divided by x minus 1 as x approaches to 3. Okay? So this is our solution. Sabi dito, we need to investigate the value of the function of x when x is close to 3. If the function of x values get arbitrarily close to or even equal to some number L, then L will be the limit. Okay? One way to keep track of both x and the function of x values is to set up a table and to pick several x values which are closer and closer but not equal to 3. We can pick some values of x which approaches to 3 from the left. Say x is 2.91, 0.9997, 99.993, 2.99999, and some values of x which approaches to 3 from the right. Say 3.1, 3.004, 001, and 0002. The only thing important about these particular values for x is that they get closer and closer to 3 without equaling to 3. So you should try some other values close to 3 to see what happens. So tulad po yung ginawa po natin doon sa tangent lines po natin. We get values from the left and the right to get closer and closer to our point of reference. Okay? Pero pag titignan po yung functions po natin, yung denominator natin, if we're going to substitute this one, 3 minus 1, our limit is not equal to 2. So there's no need to factor our function. Pero ang gagawin po natin solution dito is we're going to use the table method. Sabi dito, our table of value is if x is equal to 2.9, the function of x is equal to 6.82. So, saan po nakuha yung 6.82? Dito, pag minanual muna natin using yung algebra method, okay? Pag titingnan po natin dito in our denominator, 3 minus 1, the answer is 2, no? Okay. Sa taas naman, 3 squared is 9 times 2 is 18, minus 3 is 15, minus 1 is 14. So 14 divided by 2, the answer is 7. So yun po siya. Pero doon sa table natin, if our x is equal to 2.9, okay, 2.9 siya, 2.9 is squared multiplied by 2 minus 2.9 minus 1 divided by 2.9 minus 1, the answer is 6.82. Okay? So ito yung mga numbers na kinuha po natin from the left. Okay? 2.997. If you're going to substitute, you're going to have 6.994. Up to 2.999999, the answer is 6.99999, po siya. So we can say that as x approaches to 3 but not equal to 3, okay, the answer is our function is approaches to 7. Okay? So the same with your from the right. We have 3.1. Function of x is 7.2. 3.004. We have 7.008. Okay? As x get closer or approaches to 3, our function of x is approaches to 7. Ito po yung isang solution. We call this one as your table method. Okay? Sabi niya, as the x values get closer and closer to 3, the function of x values are getting closer and closer to 7. In fact, we can get the function of x as close to 7 as we want, arbitrarily close. By taking the values of the function of x very close, sufficiently close to 3. So sabi dito, the limit of 2x squared minus x minus 1 divided by x minus 1 as x approaches to 3, the answer is 7. So next, this is your exercise, no? We have practice 1 and practice 2 for 5 minutes, okay? Pagsulat po yung sagot po natin sa chat box po natin. So nung una, Practice 1, you're going to use the graph method. Use the graph of y is equal to the function of x in figure 3 to determine the following limits. The limit the function of x as x approaches to 1, the limit the function of t as t approaches to 2, the limit of the function of x as x approaches to 3, and the limit of the function of w as w is equal to 4. So, pareho lang po doon sa example number 1 po natin. So, ang gagawin po natin, you have to look on our figure 3 which will serve as our reference in finding the limits. Ang tawag po dito, using the graph method. Next, practice 2 po. Evaluate the limit x squared minus x minus 2 divided by x minus 2 as x approaches to 2. Letter B, limit t sine t all over t squared plus 3t as t approaches to 0. So you're going to use the algebra method. So we're going to check your answers, no? Okay. Okay. So letter A, the limit the function of x as x approaches to 1. Okay. So pag titingnan po natin, in our figure 3, the limit the function of x as x approaches to 1, ito yung x po natin. Project it upward, and then project it to the left, the answer is 2. Okay? Okay. Okay, Alfred, okay. 2, 2, then 4. Okay. So, we're going to check, no? Okay, may sagot din si Alfred. So, tama yung 2. Okay, no problem. Thank you for the participations, no? Okay. So, next, we have, okay na tayo sa letter A, no? As x approaches to 1, our limit is equal to 2 po. Okay? Next, we have letter B. If our limit is approaches to 2, okay? Ito na yung x natin. Project it upward, and then project it to the left. The answer is 2 pa rin. Okay? Next, we have limit 3. Limit the function of x as x approaches to 3. So, ito yung number 3 po natin. Okay? So, pag titignan po, may dalawa tayong given na curve dito, yung dalawang function. Ito yung una, ito yung pangalawa. So, your x approaches to 3 is irrelevant at the same time undefined. Dahil dalawa po yung functions lies on our x is equal to 3. Dito yung dulo ng isa, dito nagsimula yung isa. So therefore, your limit of the function of x as x approaches to 3 does not exist. Yun po yung sagot. And then, limit the function of w as w approaches to 4. Ito yung 4 natin. Project it upward, project it to the left. So the answer is 1. So yun po yung sagot natin. So we have 2, 2, does not exist, and 1. For number 2 naman, pag titingnan po natin, x squared minus x minus 2 divided by x minus 2. So if we're going to substitute this one, 2 minus 2 is 0 siya. So hindi pwede, no? So gagawin po natin, we are going to look for the common factor. The same with this one. 0 squared is 0 plus 3 times 0 is 0. So ipa-factor po natin siya. So ito yung mga solutions po natin. Okay? So, for letter practice 1, ito yung mga sagot. 2, 2 does not exist, no limit, at saka 1. Okay? So, doon sa number 2 naman, limit x approaches to 2, ito na yung common factor. X minus 2, x minus 2 will be cancelled. Natira, limit x plus 1 as x approaches to 2, 2 plus 1, the answer is 3 for letter A. Okay? Sa letter B naman, gagawin natin, ipapaktor natin yung t squared plus 3t. Ito na yung common factor nila. T at saka t, we're going to cancel. What's left? Sin t all over t plus 3. So, hindi pa rin siya naging 0, no? There's 0 plus 3, the answer is 3 pa rin. Pero 0 divided by 3, The answer is 0. Okay? So we have now the three methods for evaluating limits. Okay? First, we have the algebra method. The algebra method involves algebraically simplifying the function before trying to evaluate its limit. Okay? Often, this simplification just means factoring and dividing, but sometimes more complicated algebraic or even trigonometric steps are needed. So pag naalala po ninyo yung mga solutions na ginawa po natin on our limits and continuity, we substitute directly our limit doon sa variable po natin. Ang tawag po doon sa steps na yon ay algebra method. Okay? Next, we have the table and graph method. To evaluate a limit of a function of x as x approaches the constant, the table method involves calculating the values of function of x for enough value of x very close to c so that we can confidently determine which values the function of x is approaching. If the function of x is well behaved, we may not need to use very many values for x. However, this method is usually used with complicated functions. And then we need to evaluate the function of x for lots of values of x. Okay? So dito, doon sa problem po natin na number 1, ang tawag po dito is graph method. So, gagawin lang po natin kung ano yung required. Tulad po yung nandito, A, B, C, D, our answers, kukunin lang po natin siya doon sa figure. Excuse me. So doon natin makukuha yung sagot without any problem solving. Nandito na yung sagot po. Yan yung pinaka-the best. Mas madali using the graph method. Okay? Dito, yung sa practice 2 po natin dito, okay, ang tawag po dito is algebra method sa A and B po natin. So, we have to use the 5 rules ng natin, limits po natin. Although meron yung constant na, it's yung K, pero the most important is yung addition, subtraction, multiplication, and divisions of limits. So under your quotient rule, may nakalagay po doon na pinaka-importante po siya that the quotient of your denominator is not equal to 0. So pag 0 siya, ang gagawin po natin, we are going to find their common factor para ma-simplify po siya. Okay? Ang tawag po dito, ang procedure po doon in finding the limits of function, we call this one as the algebra method. Okay? So next, dito naman, ang ginagawa po natin, tulad po nung pagkuha po natin tangent lines, we can assume many values from left to the right, which is closer to our limit. Okay? So, depende kung anong gusto mo, no? Kung ilang digits or decimal place, pwede mo siyang ilagay po dito. Wala namang pong limit yun. But the most important, your x dito is approaches to the given limit from your left or to the right. Okay? So, ang tawag po dito is table method. So, mas madali siguro yung graphing method, yung graph method, sumunod yung algebra method, pangatlo yung table method. Kasi ang gagawin mo dito, pag meron ka ng x, ang gagawin mo, substitute mo yung x dun sa given functions. So it will take time for you to look for the value of the function of x. So yun po siya. Okay? So we have your example number 4, the last example. Okay? Evaluate the limit of x squared plus 5x plus 6 divided by x squared plus 3x plus 2 as x approaches to 0. Okay? So we have your another limit, letter B. the limit of the x squared plus 5x plus 6 divided by x squared plus 3x plus 2. So pag titingnan po natin, sabi dito, solution. The function in its limit is the same. So tama yung function nila, pareho lang sila, no? Yung letter A po natin, the same function with your letter B. Ito po. Okay? Pero, but x is approaching a different number in each of them. So dito, x approaches to negative 2. The other one, x approaches to 0. So first, we have a solution for letter A. Sabi niya, since x approaches to 0, okay, we know that x is getting closer and closer to 0. So the values of the x squared, 5x, and 3x terms get as close to 0 as we went. The numerator approaches 6 and the denominator approaches to 2. So the values of the whole function get arbitrarily close to 6 all over 2, which is equal to 3, the limit. So paano po siya nakuha? So if we're going to look on our letter A, our limit is approaches to 0. If we're going to substitute that one, 0 squared is 0 siya. Plus 5 times 0, 0 pa rin. Okay? Sa baba, 0 squared is 0 pa rin. 3 times 0, 0 pa rin. So itong dalawa, magka-cancel po na yon dahil 0 na sila. Ang natira, 6 divided by 2, the answer is 3. Okay? Next, we have letter B, no? As x approaches to negative 2, the numerator and denominator approach 0, and a small number divided by a small number can be almost anything. The ratio depends on the size of the top compared to the bottom. So more investigation is needed. Okay? So for letter B po, okay, pag titignan po natin siya, una, sa letter A, we use the algebra method. I-check muna natin yung algebra method before using the table method saka graph method. Pag algebra method po siya, our limit is negative 2. So negative 2 squared is 4. Plus 3 multiplied by negative 2 is negative 6. So 4 plus negative 6, the answer is negative 2. Plus 2, the answer is 0. Okay? So since our denominator is 0, ang gagawin po natin doon, we are going to simplify our function. Okay? Pag sinimplify po natin siya, we are going to get their common factor. So what is their common factor? So since our limit is x approaches negative 2, their common factor is x plus 2. Okay? X plus 2, x plus 2. The second factor for the denominator is, since we have 3, we have x plus 1. So ang factor dito, x plus 2, x plus 1. Sa taas naman, x plus 2, dahil 5 yan, we have x plus 2, x plus 3. So, yun po yung ano nila. So, yung common factor na x plus 2, x plus 2 will be cancelled. Ang natira will be x plus 3 and then x plus 1. If we're going to substitute our limit negative 2, negative 2 plus 3 is positive 1. Negative 2 plus 1, the answer is negative 1. So 1 divided by negative 1, the answer is negative 1. So if you're going to simplify this one using your algebra method, your limit is equivalent to negative 1. Okay? Pero dito, if we're going to make use of our table method, if we pick some values for x of x close to but not equal to negative 2, we get the table. Okay? So dito, nag-pick sila ng dalawang value which is from the left at saka dalawang value from the right. Yung from the left po natin dito, yung 1.97 saka 1.998. Yung right po natin, yung 2.005 saka 2.0003. Okay? So next, we're going to substitute yung x natin doon sa functions natin. If you're going to substitute 1.97 dito, 1.97 squared plus 5 times 1.97 plus 6, the answer is 0.0309. Yun po yun. Using the table method. Pangalawa, if you're going to substitute 1.97 dito, 1.97 squared plus 3 multiplied by 1.97 plus 2, the answer is negative 0.291. Okay? Then, if you're going to divide these two, ito yung numerator divided by this one. So, numerator divided by denominator, the answer is negative 1.061856 po. Okay? So, yun po yung sagot po natin. Okay? So, the same with our 2.005. Pag sinubstitute mo, ito yung lalabas. If we're going to divide, ito na siya. Up to the same procedure up to negative 2.003. Okay? So if we're going to look at our value, as x approaches to negative 2, or mas malapit siya, okay? As x approaches to negative 2, your limit or your function is also approaches to negative 1. So tulad po yung sinagot po natin kanina using the algebra method. As x approaches to negative 2, our limit is approaches to negative 1. Yun po yung solution niya using the table method. Sabi dito, even though the numerator and denominator are each getting closer and closer to 0, their ratio is getting arbitrarily close to negative 1, which is the limit. Okay? So next, last slide po. You're going to use the graph method. Una, yung table method. Ito siya. Next, graph method. The graph of y is equal to the function of x is equal to x squared plus 5x plus 6, x squared plus 3x plus 2 in our figure 6. Shows that the values of the function of x are very close to negative 1 when the x values are close to negative 2. Okay? So dito, this is our negative 3, negative 2, negative 1. So nasa second quadrant po tayo dahil yung value ng x natin are all negative. Okay? Sabi niya, shows that the values of the function of x are very close to negative 1 when the x values are close to negative 2. So if our x approaches to negative 2, ito yun, no? Negative 2, okay? Your y is approaches to negative 1. Ito na siya. So ito na yung graph method po natin. If x is equal to negative 2, project it downward, and project it to the right, your y is approaches to negative 1. Okay? Pero dito, if your x approaches to negative 3, your y is equal to 0. Okay? So yun po yung pagbasa po ng graph po natin. Okay? So negative 1, nandito naman siya, no? Okay. Next, for the last solution, we're going to use algebra method. Sabi dito, the function of x equal to x squared plus 5x plus 6 all over x squared plus 3x plus 2. So ito po na yung sinabi ko kanina. Bago tayo nagpunta doon sa table method. So gagawin natin, find their common factor and then the second factor. Common factor, x plus 2, we have x plus 3 and x plus 1. So these two we're going to cancel. We know that x approaches negative 2, so x is not equal to negative 2. And we can divide the top and bottom by x plus 2. Then the function of x natira will be x plus 3 divided by x plus 1. So if we're going to substitute, okay, negative 2 plus 3, the answer is positive 1. Negative 2 plus 1, the answer is negative 1. So therefore, 1 divided by negative 1, the answer is negative 1. Okay?